How can you prepare for your IELTS exam quickly at home on your own for free, like so many of our students already have? Today, I'd like to share with you my favorite resources and show you how you can prepare for each section of the academic and general training test and achieve a higher score. Let's start with IELTS resources. There are so many out there, but here are a few you really need. Number 1, Cambridge English practice tests. These are the best practice tests because they're created by the same organization that writes the actual exam papers. They're as close to the real thing as you can get. The latest book is number 19, but any book from 15 and up will work just fine. Number 2, official IELTS websites. There are 3, IELTS.org and British Council and IDP, which are among the co-owners of the test, and they offer sample questions for each type of task, answer sheets, and even a computer-based practice test. There are, of course, other good resources, but I remember when I was preparing for my first test, I found it hard to distinguish between what was useful and what was necessary. Yes, if you don't know, I'm originally from Kazakhstan, so I had to take IELTS to do my master's in London, and then I stayed here, I worked in banking, and then eventually I started preparing students for their IELTS exams. So I did spend time on things that didn't matter in the end. My goal today is to give you essential steps, so you take the test well prepared and save time. If needed, more resources can always be added later. Now, let's talk about IELTS listening and what's important in your preparation if you want a higher score. This section is the same in both academic and general training tests. It consists of 40 questions, lasts for 30 minutes, and you get extra 10 minutes at the end to transfer your answers if you're taking IELTS on paper, or just 2 minutes if your exam is on the computer. To get a Band 6, you need to answer 23 questions correctly. For a Band 7, it's 30 questions, and 35 for a Band 8. What difficulties can you anticipate in this section? If you read the questions, they're alright. If you just listen to the recordings, they're quite clear and reasonably slow. It's when it all comes together that it can feel a bit overwhelming. So how can you deal with this? The first thing to learn is the test format. You can learn it by taking 1 or 2 practice tests in timed conditions. 2 things matter here. First, read all the instructions carefully to learn what you need to do on the test day. Second, these practice tests will help you get used to the pace of the test and know how quickly you need to answer each question and how to allocate your time during the test. Managing your time well is key not only in listening but throughout this test. Once you've learned the format, focus on the question types. Fortunately, there are only 4 main ones. Fill in the blank. These make up half of the questions in each test. Multiple choice questions, again used in each test. And then you get either a map or a matching task with this box with options. Learn how each question type works and how to answer them. Ideally, you should cover all 4, but if you're short of time, start with multiple choice questions. That's perhaps the toughest one. I have 3 detailed videos with strategies and practice for each of these question types. And we also have a free IELTS study plan. And you can find all these videos and other resources I'm going to mention today in this study plan. And the plan itself is linked below. To improve from test to test, don't just check how many questions you get right. Analyze your mistakes. Go back to the questions you answered incorrectly or missed. Find the corresponding part in the recording and play it again. Open the transcript if you need. You'll find all the transcripts at the back of the Cambridge practice test books. So figure out why you got it wrong. Understanding why you made mistakes can help you improve next time. Okay, once you learn the test format and the types of tasks, take several practice tests. Check if you're consistently hitting your target band score. If you still need to improve, it's time to work on your listening skills. Here is my favorite exercise. Take a practice test you've already done. Start by listening to the recording without any questions. Just listen. Your goal is to understand as much as you can. Then, listen to the same recording while reading the transcript. Pay particular attention to any words or phrases you didn't catch the first time. Go back and replay those parts until you can hear them clearly. Finally, listen to the recording again without the transcript. You'll notice that your understanding has improved. Repeat this process and you'll gradually find that your listening skills improve with each attempt. IELTS Reading. There are some differences between the academic and general training tests, and we'll cover both. And the first difference is scoring. General training tasks are focused on everyday life, making them a little bit easier than more scientific passages in the academic test. Because of this, you need to answer more questions correctly in the general training test to achieve the same band score. For example, to get a band 6, that's 23 questions in academic and as many as 30 in general training. For band 7, 30 and 35, and 35 and usually 38 questions for a band 8. The reading section can be hard. Here are some of the main difficulties. First of all, there is a lot to read. In the academic test, you have 3 long passages packed with information. Number 2 is wide vocabulary. Unless your English is really advanced, you're likely to encounter words you don't know. And the reading section actually demands the broadest vocabulary of all IELTS sections. Next, time pressure. With only 60 minutes to answer all 40 questions, even students aiming for a band 9 often feel the pressure. Here's what you can do to answer more questions and get a higher score. Just like in IELTS Listening, learn the test format. Start by taking a couple of practice tests. If you find them too difficult, remove the time limit at first and simply focus on finding as many answers as possible. If your score is below your target, don't worry, many students begin this way and then improve. Again, like in the listening section, analyzing your mistakes helps a lot. Go back to the passage for any question you get wrong. Find the relevant sentence or sentences, reread them, and check any unfamiliar words. Understand why the correct answer is correct. And note which types of questions you find more difficult. We'll come back to them later. There are 2 things that I think are important to understand about IELTS reading to do better in your test. Work around unfamiliar words. Especially in the academic test, you might encounter topic-specific vocabulary. However, the test is designed in such a way that the most complex words often don't determine the answers. So focus on the information you do understand and avoid getting stuck on less important parts. you may like the next part less. IELTS reading isn't just about reading, it's about truly understanding the meaning. Basically, apart from your English, it tests your verbal reasoning skills. And it's particularly noticeable in true, false, not given and yes, no, not given questions, where you may understand every word and still hesitate thinking, oh, is it true or not given, or is it true or false? A few things can help. First of all, understand question types. Unlike listening, IELTS reading has 11 or 14 question types depending on how you count. You'll find a detailed list on the IDP website. Focus first on the question types you struggle with most. If you're not yet sure, here is what your fellow students usually find hard. True, false, not given, and yes, no, not given questions. Matching headings. So that's the hardest type for most, me included, but it seems that it's used less often today than a few years ago. You should still prepare though. Multiple choice questions are the two types that often fall off the radar, but they're used a lot these days. Matching paragraph information and matching features. This one always has a box. I have separate videos with strategies for each one, and they are free on YouTube. Depending on how much you need to improve your score and how much time you have, you may wish to study all the question types. Just remember that preparing for the reading section shouldn't take all your time. And this is important because likely you need to focus the majority of your preparation time on the writing and speaking sections, which we left until the end, but you shouldn't. I don't want to scare you, but writing and speaking are often the hardest sections, especially for academic test takers. They're also the ones where it's hardest to assess your own level. But from all my experience, I'd say the writing section requires the most attention, and there is a clear reason for this. Let's talk about it. IELTS writing lasts for 60 minutes and consists of 2 tasks. The first task differs depending on which test you are taking. For academic students, task 1 is a report describing a chart, map, or diagram. For general training students, task 1 is a letter. Task 2 is almost the same for both tests. It's an essay. What are the typical difficulties in IELTS writing? The first is time pressure. You need to write 2 answers that are long enough in just 60 minutes. And the second difficulty, I would say, it's even greater and it surprises a lot of people. But the examiners assess not only your English, vocabulary and grammar, but also your writing skills. And that's where a lot of marks get lost. I like to compare IELTS writing to an iceberg. What students see as the challenges, grammar, vocabulary, lack of ideas, and time. So these are just the tip of the iceberg. Below the surface are the examiner's expectations you may not even be aware of. So the first step is to find out what the examiners really assess and how to provide it. For example, in task 2, particularly if you need a band 7, you need a reasonably good essay. It should be logical, answer the question, have a proper structure, and relevant ideas. And many students who don't get the score they need in writing, but get high results everywhere else, fail not because of their English, but because of their writing skills. Even if you feel that you lack vocabulary and make grammar mistakes, most likely you can still increase your score by improving your writing skills. The good thing is that you can develop your writing skills much more quickly, then you can improve your English level. So here is how you should prepare for IELTS writing. First of all, you should learn all the requirements. There is a public document called the IELTS Band Descriptors that lists all the requirements examiners use to assess your writing. There are 4 criteria at the top. For each criterion, you can see a number of requirements for each band score. This document is pretty difficult to understand on its own without any examples. So the big task is to find out what you're required to do to fulfill each requirement. Unfortunately, the official guides, even the official guide to IELTS, this one, don't really give enough guidance. And this is what actually inspired me a long time ago to start teaching IELTS and creating my own courses. I do have free videos on YouTube too, and they are linked in the study plan. But my courses cover everything step by step in one place, so it's easier to study. It takes less time, but costs more money. As it often is in life, you either spend time to solve a problem or you spend money. Anyways, I'll link the courses in the video description and let's move on. The next step of your preparation is to learn about different types of questions. In Task 1, academic students might be asked to describe a table, line graph, bar chart, pie chart, map, or diagram. Learn how to handle each type. General training students need to write a letter, which can be informal if you're writing to a friend, semi-formal, email to a work colleague, for example, or formal writing to a business or newspaper. The style of those letters will differ, and you need to be able to handle the style and tone correctly. In Task 2, there are 5 types of tasks. Advantages and disadvantages. Do the advantages outweigh the disadvantages? 2 views and your opinion. Discuss both these views and give your own opinion. Opinion essay. To what extent do you agree or disagree with the statement? Problem and solutions. What are the reasons for this and what can be done to solve this problem? 2 direct questions. So these can feel like a mix of 2 types. For example, what are the disadvantages? What can be done to solve this problem? These types are the same for both academic and general training tests. The difference is that academic topics are slightly more academic, while general training topics are more everyday. But they are often so similar that it's hard to tell them apart. Next, learn what to write about in each paragraph. We usually use just one main structure for all Task 1 answers and one for Task 2 essays. No need to be original. Just learn what you're expected to write in each paragraph and do it. For example, in academic Task 1, you must write an overview, a sentence that describes or summarizes the whole task. Or in Task 2, it's best to give your opinion in the introduction and then keep it throughout your essay. In school essays, we tend to keep our opinions until the conclusion. But IELTS essays are just too short for that. These requirements are not obvious when you just read the task, so you should learn about that. You should also build targeted vocabulary. IELTS Writing is the only section where I recommend learning specific vocabulary to everyone. And I suggest covering these 3 areas first. Linking words for Task 1 and 2, these are words like however, moreover, although. Examiners check if you use linkers to connect your ideas where needed, and it's best to use a variety of them instead of repeating the same ones. So it's best to learn them. Next, Vocabulary for describing data in Task 1 academic. For example, to demonstrate a significant increase or to reach a peak. And common expressions used in letters for Task 1 general training. I am writing to you to inquire about, or don't hesitate to contact me should you require any further information. Of course, simply learning what you need to do is not enough. You need to practice writing. Start without any time limits. Then gradually speed things up and get yourself to the level where you can finish both answers in 60 minutes. Once you finish your answers, you can use AI like ChatGPT. Post the answers and ask it to proofread it and give you a list of corrections. I find it's particularly good at correcting vocabulary and grammar. You can also ask ChatGPT to make your ideas more logical. For example, make this paragraph more coherent and see how it improves the flow. And check that the results make sense. It's not 100% accurate. One thing you definitely shouldn't do is ask it to give you a band score. I tested it and it gave a band 6.5 to an official band 9 model answer. Honestly, it has no clue. Oh, yes, and one more thing about IELTS writing. If you're taking your exam on paper, practice writing your answers on the official answer sheet using a pencil. Count how many words you write in your practice sessions and make sure that your task 1 is over 150 words and task 2 is over 250 words. And then over time, you know how long your answers should be without counting words. And now there's just one section left, IELTS Speaking. It lasts between 11 and 14 minutes and it feels pretty intense. You'll be getting one question after another. Some are easier, while others may sound a bit silly or be about something you've never done. Luckily, examiners don't assess how much you know about those topics or how smart your ideas are. They just want to hear you talk, express your ideas and opinions, and communicate in English. Yes, there are IELTS band descriptors just like in IELTS writing, but I find learning about them is not as important as it is in writing. Here are a few things that really matter in IELTS speaking. First, you need to speak fluently enough, meaning you can talk without too much effort or hesitation. Link your ideas logically and follow a clear train of thought. And give answers that are long enough. Saying very little gives the examiner little to assess. Examiners also assess your vocabulary and grammar. They want to see a variety of vocabulary and sentence structures and not too many mistakes. They also look for idiomatic language, but this doesn't mean using cliches like passing IELTS is a piece of cake. Definitely not. Expressions like a drop in the ocean or to push myself to the limit count as idiomatic. Even phrasal verbs like break up are idiomatic, though not very romantic. Fancy vocabulary and grammar are great, but they're secondary to your main goal, to express your ideas clearly and naturally. The final thing examiners assess is your pronunciation. This isn't your accent. It's about whether you pronounce words and sounds correctly, and if your rhythm and intonation are easy to follow. Try to speak clearly, not too fast, not too slow, so you're easy to understand. A good exercise is to record your answers and play them back, and be kind to yourself while listening to them. Over the years, I've come to realize that there are 2 simple pieces of advice that can make a real difference to a student's performance. First of all, don't try to sound smart. Examiners don't assess how smart your ideas are or how much you know about the topic. Actually, boring ideas may be even better because they're simpler to explain in English. And number 2, don't try to sound formal. IELTS speaking is an informal test. Be polite and that's it. Okay, how should you prepare? Let's talk about each part of the test. Part 1. 10 to 11 questions on 3 topics about yourself. Practice giving 2-3 sentences to each question. Avoid short responses like "no, I don't" or "I don't know." In your exam, this section lasts between 4 and 5 minutes. So time your answers to say enough, but not way too much. If certain topics are hard, practice answering them until you can confidently give clear answers. Now, part 2. You're given a task card and need to talk for 2-4 minutes. I'd very much ignore the 1 minute minimum. Aim to speak until the examiner stops you. In your preparation, try to cover a variety of topics and use a timer to get used to how much you need to say in this part. Now, part 3. 5 or 6 abstract, more serious questions plus some follow-up questions. In this part, you should avoid talking about yourself and focus on general ideas and opinions. For example, bad. I think I should exercise more. Good. Many people today have sedentary jobs, so regular exercise is important for staying healthy. Try to give extended answers up to 45 seconds per answer. This section lasts between 4 and 5 minutes, so make sure you say enough. And if you're wondering where to find questions for your practice, we have a PDF with questions students remember from their real exams. And you can download it for free on our Telegram channel. Or you can buy it together with sample answers and vocabulary as part of our IELTS Speaking library. If you download our study plan, the links to all the resources I've mentioned today will be there. I know that IELTS preparation may feel like a lot, but if you split it into small chunks and study regularly, it will become much more manageable and you see your progress clearly. Thank you so much for watching me today. Good luck with your preparation and your exam. Bye!